How you doing there? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf. Ooh. Is that a squeak? I can't tell because I got my noise cancelling headphones. Is it possible that my noise cancelling headphones are not cancelling as much noise as they used to? Maybe they're getting tired. Is it possible for your ears to can my hearing mutate to oh my gosh, that would be not good. If I become like a noise canceling headphone, what's that called? Like when a virus mutates and then it's like a strand that is like not repellent, but it's like it's able to withstand it. It's like like maybe my hearing is. Oh my gosh, I'd have to get super noise canceling headphones. Today, when I'm recording this, is unfortunately a big tragedy for Am Yisrael. We are all mourning the loss of Hirsch, Goldberg, Polin, Aiden Yerushalmi, Ori Danino, Alex Lobanov, Carmel Gat, and Amok Sarosi, our brothers and sisters who were murdered after surviving for so long by the Rishonim, who are our neighbors. So let us learn in their memory. We're going to learn Daf Ayin Zayin of Masechta BavaBasra. Here we go. We're going to start on Daf Ayin Zayin Amud Aleph. The first part is basically wrapping up yesterday's Gemara, where we talked about Osius and how to be Kone Osius, and then we're going to do another Mishnah and Gemara. Here we go. Okay, we're going to start Daf Ayin Zayin Amud Aleph all the way at the top. Amar Meimer says, Meimer Hilchasa, the halacha is Osius Niknis B'Mesira. So we had a machlokes yesterday. When it comes to Osius, who could tell me what Osius are? Osius are that if Shimon has a document that says that he is entitled to collect money, $1,000 from Reuven, and Shimon sells that document to Levi for, Shimon says to Levi, look, Levi, give me $750 now. I'll give you this document which entitles you to collect 1,000 from Reuven. So how does that kinyan? How is Shimon makne that shtar to Levi? So there's two options that we discussed. One option is Pashut Mesira. Shimon gives it to Levi, Azoy. The other way to do it is that giving it over is not enough. He oichit needs to write an additional document that he gives to Levi that says, what does it say? Is Kani hu v'chol shibud debei, that I'm selling it to you, and any shibud, any entitlements, anything that's meshubid to this document. Okay, so Amar Meimer says, Meimer says, Osius niknis b'mesir. So Meimer says that Osius are niknis. Oh no, where's my watch? Dag nabbit. One second. That Osius are able to be acquired with Mesira alone, right? So Amar Meimer says, Meimer Hilchasa Osius niknis b'mesira, that this document, this Osius, can be sold with Mesira alone. Kirebi, like is the opinion of Rebbe. Amar le Rav Ashi, la Meimer says Rav Ashi to Meimar Gemara Osvar. Is this a tradition that you have, that Osius are niknis b'mesira kirebi, or is it logical? So Amar le, so Meimar says Gemara, it's taka tradition that this is the halacha, that Osius niknis b'mesira kirebi. Rav Ashi says, Rav Ashi Svar Nami, who? And Rav Ashi says, okay, Givaldik, but I can tell you the truth is that even if you didn't have a tradition, it's simply logical to say that Osius Niknos B'Mesira alone, without the requirement of an additional document. The Osius Mile Ninu Umile B'Mile Lo Miknen, because Osius, right, this shtar, what is it? It's a mile. It's not any. I'm not like selling you mominous. I'm not selling you a car or something. I don't know. I'm selling you the right to be able to collect money from Reuven. I'm selling you an entitlement. So it's mile. It's words. It's a concept. It's an entitlement that's being sold. Umile b'mile lo miknin. So therefore, to sell one entitlement by writing another document to describe an entitlement would be two entitlements, and you don't sell one entitlement with another entitlement. Okay, so mile b'mile lo miknin. Words can't be sold with other words. Velo, but is that really true? That mile b'mile lo miknin? Ve'omer Rabba bar Yitzchok Omarov. Rabbi Yitzchak says the name of Rab. Shnei shtaris heim, that there are two types of documents. Here's one of them. Zachu b'sade zo lifloni v'chizvulo es ashtar chozer b'shtar v'nechozer b'sade. So if Reuven says to two people that I guess they would serve as witnesses. But anyways, he says to two people. Reuven says to two people, "Look, I want to be makne my field to Shimon." Now, zochen adam shalei b'fanav, right? You can do something that's beneficial to somebody even if he's not there. So Shimon's not there right now, but Reuven wants to gift his field to Shimon. So what he does is he makes a kinyan sudar, kinyan chalifin. I imagine the way it would work is that these two people would give Reuven a handkerchief. Reuven picks up the handkerchief, and by doing so, he's makne be'etzem the field to these two people to be zoche to receive it on behalf of Shimon, and now and they'll receive it on behalf of Shimon, and now belongs to Shimon. So zochen l'adam shalom b'fanav, by doing this kinyan chalif and this kinyan sudar, so now the field belongs to Shimon, and then he says oichit to these two people and write a document about it and give that to Shimon oichit to say that the field belongs to him. So in this first scenario, zachu b'sadeh zo lifloni. So let's make a kinyan sudar, and I want to be mezakeh the field to you on Shimon's behalf. And additionally, v'chizvelo es ashtar and oichit, write a document and give that to Shimon that says that the field belongs to him now. Chozer b'shtar v'nechozer b'sadeh. So if Reuven, who's gifting the field, if he decides, you know what, I want it to be a matana she'ein bo shtar. Okay. Is that the right way to call it? One second, sorry. Matana al peh. Yeah, it's probably the better way to refer to it. Matana al peh. Anyways, so Reuven says, you know what, I don't want Shimon to have a document about this, so he can always revert the document so long as Shimon hasn't received it. He can go back in the document part, but these people were already received the field on Shimon's to be mizakeh to Shimon, so the Shimon already now owns the field, just he won't have the document. Okay, so again, right, so zachu b'sadeh zo lefloni, I want to be mizakeh this. Reuven says I want it to these two people. I want to be mizakeh the field to you by a kinyan sudar lifloni, right, on behalf of Shimon, so that the field will now belong to Shimon. V'chizvelo es hashtar, and also write a document so that Shimon has documentation for it. So chozer b'shtar, he could say, you know what, forget it, actually, I don't want that Shimon should have a document. But ve'eno chozer b'sadeh, but he can't go back on the gift of the field because he already gifted it to Shimon. That's already done. However, if what he says is al menas shetichtivu lo es ashtar, but if he links the gift of the field with the document, so if he says I'm gifting the field to Shimon under the condition that there is a shtar accompanying it, well then if the shtar falls apart, so does the gift. Right, so chozer bein b'shtar bein b'sadeh. It can be chozer by the document and the field. Right, so if he makes sure that the document never arrives with Shimon, so Shimon never receives the documents, and he also will never receive the field because he linked them one to another. Rav Chia bar Avin Rav Huna, and says Rav Chia bar Avin the name Rav Huna, and this is going to be the tie-in into whether we say mile b'mile mikne or not. So we want to say before mile b'mile lo miknin. But let's see. So it says Rav Chia bar Avin Rav Huna shlosha shtaris, in there are three documents. Trei Adam Aron. Okay, we had the two examples that we just gave. Idach, in the third example, im kodem mocher v'chosav es ashtar. if the following was the scenario, Ruvain needs money, so he figures, well, if I need money, I have property, so I can sell the property and then I'll have money. Okay, I have assets. I'll sell off some assets and get some cash. So Reuven says, you know what? I know Shimon's going to be interested in buying my field, and he has the opportunity. Now Shimon isn't here right now, but it just so happens to be a scribe is on hand, is available, and Reuven says, you know what? When I see Shimon, I want him to be able to buy. I want this. I want money, and I want this sale to go through smoothly and quickly and efficiently. And he says, you know what? Shimon isn't here right now, but the scribe is here. So why don't I take advantage of the fact that I have the scribe here right now and have him write up all the documentation, even though Shimon isn't here, and I guess he arguably doesn't know that I'm selling it to him, whatever it is. But he says, why don't we just get the documentation squared away so that when Shimon is here, we can just quickly settle this. And, I'll sell my field to him and he'll give me money, and that way I will have cash. So, if Reuven asks the scribe to write for him a document in advance, right, to write for him a document right now that says that he's selling his field to Shimon, and deal with all the paperwork. So, Kosa Shoshaninu, like we teach, Kosvin Shtar Lamocher, that we can do this. We could write which is interesting because there's also a concept of Shtar Amona. I'm very curious. So apparently this is a Gemara in Get Pashut. We're going to get to that in about another 90 pages or so. We still have a long ways off. But I'm curious to see what's the difference between this and a Shtar Amona. Maybe a Shtar Amona, I think that might be by a loan, right? That you shouldn't have a document that says that Shimon lent $1,000 to Reuven, because then even if it didn't actually happen, but just so that potentially it could happen in the future, that's called a shtar amana, and you're not supposed to leave those around. But anyways, this seems to be acceptable apparently. So Kozvin shtar lemocher, so Reuven can write this document on behalf of for Shimon that says that he's selling Shimon his field. Even though Shimon isn't there right now. And Givaldig, so you can do that. So now so once Shimon now makes a chazaka on Reuven's property, so now even if the document isn't there right now, but this document that Reuven had written for Shimon about this sale, once Shimon makes the chazaka on Reuven's property, it now belongs to Shimon, and also that document, wherever it might be, now belongs to Shimon as well. And now belongs to Shimon as well. So we want to say that that's be'etzem milei b'milei mikne. That be'etzem, this concept of this document, right, that by Reuven and Shimon, right, Reuven agreeing to sell his field to Shimon, and Shimon is going to the field b'chazaka, this document, which is milei, which is words, is now nikne to Shimon because of the fact that Reuven be'etzem agreed to sell the field to Shimon. So it's like milei b'milei mikne. That sort of, this is, that Reuven's agreeing to sell the field to Shimon now is kona the document, which is milei, to Shimon. And this is what we teach in Masechta Kiddushin, nechasim she'ein lehem achrayis, that metaltalin, the shtar in this case, niknim nechasim she'esh lehem achrayis, can be acquired together with nechasim she'esh lehem achrayis, real estate, Bekesef, b'shtar, v'chazaka, whether you acquire the property with money or with a document, or in this case with a chazaka. So we see milei b'milei miknen. Yeah, we wanted to say earlier that osios niknin b'mesira alone, because the shtar would be milei, and milei b'milei ein niknin. And yet over here we seem to be saying milei b'milei miknin, which is why Shimon gets the document, wherever it is. So, and for the Gemara, no. The reason why Shimon gets the document, wherever it is not because of milei b'milei mikne. No, it's because of the concept of metaltlin being niknin agav karka. Right? That's a halacha that we know from Masechta Kiddushin, from Masechta BavaBasra, from different places, that when you acquire property, you can acquire whatever, you can at the same time acquire metaltalin. So here also, Shimon is being kone Ruvain's property b'chazaka, and by being kone the property, is oichet being kone the metaltalin, the shtar, wherever it might be. So agav shiny, so being kone metaltalin agav karka is just a completely under a zach, and that's why it works. It's not because mile b'mile mikne, it's because metaltalin nikne agav karka. The amatbeya, because after amatbeya did lo nikne b'chalifin. Right, you have coins that you can't be konek coins, as we learned in Perek Azov in Bava Metzia, that you cannot be konek coins in a kinyan chalifin, and yet v'agav ari nikne, but you can be konek coins via property. If you're konek property, then you can also be konek metaltalin coins by way of the kinyan on the property. So we see that even though you can't be kone coins b'chalifin, you can be kone agav karka. Here also, we'll say mile b'mile eina niknin, but you can be kone that shtar agav karka. Kedar Papa, like Rapapa, havule tracer alfa zuze bechozoi. That Rapapa had 12,000 zuzes bechozoi, which I imagine was a lot of money. And the shaila was, how is he going to get them back? So now, Rav Shmuel bar Acha was traveling to where the money was, and the problem was they weren't going to trust him with the 12,000 zuz, because what if something happens to the money? So then who's going to be responsible? So what Rav Papa did was, so Rav Papa the Avale Tracer Ase Trefer Alpha Zuze Bechozoi Akninu Nia Le Rav Shmuel Bar Acha Agav Asipa the basis. So Rav Papa basically was makne I guess the doorpost, the doorway to his house, like I guess a shtickle property. And by doing that, Rav Shmuel bar Acha was then also kone the money as well. So now it belongs to Rav Shmuel bar Acha. So that when he went to pick up the money, and they say, well, who owns the money and who's responsible for it? He says, well, it's my money. I'm responsible for it because Rav Papa was makne the money to him agav karka. And when Rav Shmuel bar Acha came back with the money, Rav Papa went out to greet him because he was so happy that he was able to get his money out from Bechozai. So we see that the money was able to be niknin agav karkos. Here, we're going to say that the shtar is being that when Reuven writes his document for Shimon, and Shimon is kona the property b'chazaki, oichet gets the shtar wherever it is because it's niknin agav karka. Givaldik. But it's not a proof that mile b'mile mikne. Avalo macher lo esavodim. So it said in the Mishnah that if somebody buys a boat, it does not come together with the avodim who work on the boat. V'lo samartzofin, not the sacks that you put merchandise in. V'lo antike v'chule, not the merchandise itself. My antike, what is antike? Rav Papa iska de begavo. Rav Papa says it's the merchandise on the ship. So you have the sacks, and in the sacks is the merchandise. None of that stuff would by default be included in the sale of the ship. Says the Mishnah, Mocher es hakaron, lo mocher es haprotis. Somebody who sells a wagon does not sell, right? Mules not included. Mocher es haprotis, lo mocher es hakaron. Somebody who sells mules, wagon not included. Okay, so if you sell the wagon, it does not include the mules. If you sell the mules, it does not include the wagon. Mocher es hatzemed, lo mocher es habaker. If somebody sells a yoke, included in the sale is not, or excluded from the sale is, the oxen. Somebody who sells oxen, the yoke is not included. Rabbi Yehuda Omer says, Rabbi Yehuda Hadam Modin, Rabbi Yehuda says that, well, let's look at how much he paid for this yoke. For example, if Reuben says to Shimon, sell me your yoke for 200 zuz, everybody knows that the yoke doesn't cost 200 zuz, and it also includes the oxen themselves. Or the Chacham say, no, you can't, that is not legitimate, and the Gemara is going to explain what exactly that means. Okay, so the shaila is, when you sell a yoke, does it include the oxen? Rabbi Yehuda says, well, let's look at how much he's paying. If he's paying 200 zuz for a yoke, that makes no sense. Obviously, it includes the oxen. The Rabbanan say you can't just, you can't just draw those conclusions. Okay. Says the Gemara, Tanu Rav Tachlifa bar Mayrava Kamida Babo. That Rav Tachlifa bar Mayrava taught before Babo, Macharis Akarin, Macharis Aprodis. That if somebody sells a wagon, the mules are included. We had said in the Mishnah, mules not included. And yet, again, Tanu Rav Tachlifa bar Mayrava Kamida Babo, Macharis Akarin, Macharis Aprodis. If somebody sells the wagon, you oichit is selling the mules. Lo Machar Tanan, but we said in our Mishnah, mules not included. Amalei Ismai. So Rav Tachlifa bar Mayrava says, all right, Taka, if that's the case, I will delete this brisa from my brain. Amalei Lo Titagasni Secha Ba'adukin Bo. So says, not so fast, don't delete anything. Before you delete anything, Taka, you could say that your brisa is talking about when the mule is connected to the wagon. So if the mule is connected to the wagon, well then I can understand that the mule is included in the sale if it is connected to the wagon. Okay, fine. So now we get into this machlokes between the Rabbi Yehuda and the Chachamim regarding, can you draw a conclusion based on the amount paid, right? So if Reuven is buying Shimon's yoke, and the Shilas doesn't include the oxen themselves, so Rabbi Yehuda says, well, let's look at how much he paid. If he paid 200 just for the yoke, that makes no sense. Of course, the oxen are included. The Chacham say we can't draw such conclusions. So if somebody, so if Shimon is selling the yoke to Reuven, it does not include the oxen. Now, 1 second. What exactly is the case? Look, if we're talking about in a place where a yoke is referred to as a yoke and oxen are referred to as oxen, which means if Shimon says to Reuven, I'm selling you the yoke, it literally means I'm selling you the yoke. Well, if that's the case, well then obviously what Shimon is selling Reuven is the yoke, not the oxen. I don't care what he paid for it. Okay, well then what about if we're talking about a place where you refer to oxen as, you refer to the yoke, oxen as a yoke. So meaning, okay, so if Shimon says, I'm selling you the yoke, and it's a place where including the yoke is the oxen, well obviously, kulei zavinle is including the oxen. So like what's going on? What's the situation where we're like trying to figure out, are the oxen included? Are the oxen excluded? Like, I don't get it. If it's a place where oxen are oxen and yokes are yokes, well obviously the oxen are excluded. If it's a place where oxen can be referred to as yoke, well then or oxen are referred to as yoke, so then the yoke includes the oxen. So what's the shaila? Well, it's talking about a place where be'etzem yoke is yoke and oxen is oxen. But there are those people. There's always those people who complicate things by referring to oxen as yoke. So now the shaila is, Shimon is selling quote unquote his yoke to Reuven, and the question is, so when Shimon is selling his yoke to Reuven, is he one of the people who refers to the oxen also as yoke? Or is he like apparently the majority who say yoke means yoke? So Rabbi Yehuda says, well, let's see how much he's charging Reuven. And if we need to figure out, well, if Reuven's buying it for 200 zuz, well then clearly Shimon is one of those people that includes the oxen with the yoke. Because there's way too much money for simply a yoke. So Rabbi Yehuda holds, Hadam Modin. Well, let's look at how much is paid. If he paid 200 zuz, clearly he's not just buying a yoke. Rabbanan say, no, that's no proof. Now, the assumption right now is what that means is that it's no proof, and therefore we can't assume that he's of these people who refers to the oxen also as a yoke. I don't care how much he paid for it. And therefore, the assumption is what it means is that all he's buying is the yoke. That's it. We can't make any conclusions about it also including the oxen. All he's buying is the yoke for 200 zuz. But Chevre, we learned Perek Azov. We learned the sugya of the very difficult sugya of Onah. So, right, of overcharging. So I don't understand. How could the rabbis say that if Reuven's paying 200 zuz to Shimon, how could the rabbi say that Reuven is only buying the yoke? He's way overpaying. The whole sale should be null and void. V'chitema bitul mekach l'rabbanan leislu, and maybe the rabbis don't hold of bitul mekach. Maybe they don't hold of bitul mekach. They don't hold that the sale would be null and void. V'chitema bitul mekach l'rabbanan leislu v'lo. But is that true? We learn in the Mishnah. Rabbi Yehuda Omer says, right, so the Mishnah, I believe, had said that Onah does not apply to Avodim, Shtarus, Kaikaos. And Rabbi Yehuda adds to that list also Sefer Torah, an animal, jewelry. There's no Onah there. And the Rabbi said to Rabbi Yehuda, Lo Amru Elo Es Elu. No. Only Karka, Shtarus, and Avodim don't have Onah. But everything else has Onah. And there's Bitul Mekach. So back to the question. Rabbi Yehuda says, if we're not sure if Shimon is selling the oxen together with the yoke, so let's look how much he paid. The rabbi said, no, we can't do that. He only sells the yoke. But how can he spend 200 zuz on a yoke? It should be Bitul Mekach. So the Gemara gives two answers. Answer number one is, where am I? My ein damim raya nami dikatani davi bitul mekach. No, that's punct what the rabbis are saying. Kilu, Rabbi Yehuda is trying to figure things out. He's trying to draw conclusions. Rabbi Yehuda says, well, we don't know when he says yoke. Does he mean yoke or does he also include oxen? Well, let's see how much you paid. If he paid 200 zuz, clearly he's not just talking about the yoke. He's including the oxen. To which rabbis say, no, we're not going to draw any conclusions. And therefore, we have to assume that he's selling just the yoke, and paying 200 zuz for a yoke is way overpaying, and therefore the whole thing is batul. Therefore, the whole thing is batul. Alternatively, what you can say is that taka, no, it's like we assumed originally. The rabbis are saying we can't draw any conclusions, and therefore we can't draw any conclusions. To say that the oxen are included, and therefore we have to assume that he's paying 200 zuz for just the yoke. But how can you pay 200 zuz for just the yoke? Isn't that way overpaying? Shouldn't it be bitul mekach? No, it's not bitul mekach. He's way overpaying for a yoke. How? Well, ki amar rabbanon, ki amar rabbanon ona uvitul mekach. When the rabbis talk about overcharging and the sale being null and void, bichdei shadas toeh. That's within reason. If Reuven paid for a yoke, right, and he overpaid, by a sixth. So he didn't realize, it's enough that you can kind of like be not sure if you're overpaying or not, right? So only off by a sixth, right? So we say, okay, if it's off by a shtus, that's already considered too much, and he may not have known, and it's bitul mekach. Ava b'chdei she'ein adas toeh lo. But such an exorbitant amount, right? Something that is so obviously overpaying, like 200 zuz for a yoke, well, then I won't say ona'ah over there. I'll say, okay, Reuven is best in giving him all this extra money as a gift, because it's so obviously overpaying that this doesn't fit into regular like halachos of ona'ah and bitul mekach. It must be that the extra money is treated as a gift, and therefore, yes, the rabbis would say that it's just the yoke that is being sold for this exorbitant amount, and the extra would be considered a gift. That was daf ayin of Masechta BavaBasra. Peace out.